Hi, this is the lesson for 10.2 part 1, and it goes with radicals and exponents. Any root or radical can be written as an exponent. Okay, so if you have something in a root, then you can rewrite it as x raised to something. The power will always be a fraction. Okay, so if you have the nth root of x raised to the m power, that could also be written as x raised to the m over n. Now there will be numbers in there. It won't always be letters for your power. How do you know what goes on top? What goes on top is whatever is inside the radical. So the m is on the x, so the m goes on top. What goes on bottom of the fraction exponent? Whatever the root is that's outside there. Okay, whatever root that's outside there goes on the bottom. So it's always in over out. Okay, so let's look at the cube root of x raised to the 2. We have a root, so that means we can write that as x raised to a power. The power is going to be 2 over 3 because the 2 is inside, the 3 is outside. Okay, what about the 5th root of y to the 7th? Same thing, that would be y raised to the 7's inside, the 5 is outside. It's always inside over outside for that fraction. Okay, so we can also reverse, put fraction exponent as a root. It's the same rule, inside over out. So if you have x to the 5 over 7, you could put that in a root. That would be x raised to the 5's on top, so it goes in. The 7's on bottom, so it goes out. Okay, what about x raised to the 3/4? Same thing, put that inside a root. The 3 is on top, inside. The 4 is on bottom, outside. The fraction power, the top goes in, the bottom goes out. Okay, what about finding out what something's equal, which is called evaluating? Evaluate 25 to the 1/2. This does not mean half of 25. A fraction power always means put it inside a root. So the 25 goes inside. The 1 that's on top of the 1/2, the 1 goes in. The 2 from the 1/2 goes outside. The 1 over 2 power tells you 1 in, 2 out. Okay, well, what does the square root of 25 equal? 5, because 5 times 5 is 25. What about evaluate 27 to the 1/3? So I put 27 in the root. The 1 is on top, so it goes in. The 3 is on bottom, so it goes out. 27 to the 1/3 power. The 1 on top in, the 3 on bottom out. The cube root of 27 means what? Times itself again equals 27. So that would be 3. So the answer is 3. Okay, now that's if you have numbers. What if you have letters? Let's look where it says power rule. X raised to the 3rd power and then squared. Remember that squared means write that times itself. So you write x to the 3rd, x to the 3rd. You write 2 of them. Well, if you have 3 and 3, that means you have 6. Remember that the shortcut from the beginning, when you have x to the 3 to the 2, you multiply powers. Okay, so that would be 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, let's look at this one, this next one right here. X raised to the 5 over 6. All raised to the 6th power. So the rule, when you have a power and another one outside, you multiply. So that means we need to multiply 5 over 6 times 6. Okay, so look to the right here. We're going to multiply 5 over 6 times 6. That 6 becomes a 6 over an understood 1. We're going to multiply straight across. 5 times 6 equals 30. 6 times 1 equals 6. 30 divided by 6 equals 5. Okay, so let's look back. That becomes x raised to the 5th power. Okay, let's look at the next one. There's a whole bunch of stuff raised to the 1/3 power. We have the 125, we have the x, and we have the y. Okay, the number's going to work different than the letter. 125 raised to the 1/3. Okay, it's all inside the parentheses, so everything to the 1/3. So I'm going to put 125 inside. The 1 on top goes in, the 3 on bottom goes out. Okay, the cube root of 125 equals 5. Why? Because the cube root means what times itself equals 125. So that is 5. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. Okay, now what about this x raised to the 9th raised to the 1/3? Same thing, you've got x raised to a power and then another power. So we're going to multiply those powers. We're going to multiply the 9 times the 1/3. 9 is 9 over 1. 9 over 1 times 1/3. Multiply fractions straight across. 9 times 1 equals 9. 1 times 3 equals 3. 9 divided by 3 equals 3. Okay, so what about the y? Y to the 6th raised to the 1/3. We're going to multiply the 6 times the 1/3. So that would be 6 over 1 times 1 over 3. 6 times 1 on top is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. 6 divided by 3 equals 2. The final answer, we're going to take all those parts. 125 raised to the 1/3 is 5. The x will have a 3 exponent and the y will have a 2 exponent. Okay, so that entire answer put together would be 5x to the 3rd, y to the 2. That's the end of the lesson.